Welcome to episode 13 of the Lightning Round. I'm your host, Lightning.
And I'm your co-host, Rashy Dash.
And the Lightning Round is brought to you by Philly Games, the makers of Welcome to Ponyville, a visual novel-based game that is going to be released soon. So check out more information on that at www.phillygames.com. So a couple of announcements to start off the podcast. We have upcoming interviews for the rest of the month, and into September, actually. We've got this week an interview with Twilight Kloppel, one of the authors over on FinFiction, which will be coming up in a couple of minutes. Next week we have our interview with the members of the Equestrian Inquirer, that is Joe Stevens and TechRat. The week following that will be the team from Pony and Box Production. So those are the interviews we have for the rest of the month. Now, going into September, we have a special planned for the 8th of September. In addition to doing our regular podcast, we will also be holding a special Skype chat where me and a couple of people from Philly Games are going to be discussing our thoughts on Season 1 and 2 and expectations for Season 3. And so that'll be our little special that we're doing in preparation for Season 3 being released. One last announcement we have before we get into the interview for this week is that Philly Games has released a trailer for Act 1 of Welcome to Ponyville. And we're going to play that for you right now.
Where am I? What in Celestia's name was that?
I'm telling you, humans exist. Celestia is covering it up.
Nah, nothing to worry about. Just made a slight miscalculation. Or two. Or, 3.
So what? You never see Rainbow Dash backing down from trouble.
Did you ever know someone named Twilight Sparkle?
The wind's been acting strange lately.
Do apple trees always do that round these parts? Just don't seem natural.
Look, weird stuff like this just happens sometimes. It's not all some crazy conspiracy. At least, none that I can think of.
Why, hello there. You may call me Lord Diamond.
No, you can't do that!
All shall love us and despair!
Keep lovers and lovers! Wait, no! That simply would not do!
Come one, come all!
Where is Trixie?
Thank you so much.
I want to show the world the beauty of the orchestra.
Where's my pie?
I fear disharmony may be brewing.
Welcome to Ponyville.
And that was the trailer for Welcome to Ponyville. As you saw, it says that the release date is going to be summer of 2012. There is only there's only like 1 month left for the summer of 2012, so you can expect that to be released fairly soon. So now we will go on to the interview for this week with Twilight Kloppel. Alright, first up this week we have our interview. This week we have an interview with Twilight Kloppel, one of the authors over on FinFiction. You still there?
Yeah, hi. Well, to say a little bit about myself, I write for this fandom, I draw, and I probably do way more for ponies than I should.
And, how did you become a brony to begin with?
Oh my goodness. I don't have the time to tell such a long story, but the cheap sheet version is, I spend way much time online. I saw ponies, and I really wanted to know what the deal was.
All right. Who's your favorite pony?
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't ask this. So, my favorite pony, I can't decide. It's Luna, it's Twilight, and every day it's somebody else. I really, I have nothing for you.
All right. How about a favorite episode then?
Favorite episode is easily The Royal Wedding. But before that came out, it was Party of One.
Good choices, both of those. So, tell us about your OC. You put it up on your channel a couple weeks ago. How did you end up designing it, and who drew the picture for it?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm kind of getting a bad connection.
Tell us about your OC a little bit. How did you design it, and who drew the picture for it?
Oh, my OC. Oh, right, yeah. Well, I designed it really simply, just, kind of a caveman paint app, and I drew her, actually, myself, from, a vector Rainbow Dash.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right. So how did you get into writing in the first place?
Well, I knew I always liked writing, and I knew I always liked ponies, so ponies plus writing equals terrible fanfics.
So, in this fandom, when it comes to writing, there are several different genres of writing, and you happen to specialize in one of them. What is that genre exactly?
Well, it's been described as a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's really just Kloppfics.
So why that one specifically?
I have no idea. I used to be good, I used to be normal, and turns out I'm pretty twisted. If you read some of my stories, you'd know that. I don't know how I got into it, I just know that I'm there to stay.
All right, with that said, do you have a favorite pair to ship, and why them?
Favorite ship, definitely Dashfire. I love Dashfire. Second favorite ship is Twiluna.
That's probably one of my favorites as well.
Really?
Yeah.
It is a good one, yeah.
So, are there any other authors in this particular genre that you get inspiration from or look up to?
Well, before I actually made any accounts on any sites, I was lurking writers like Ta. I draw heavy inspiration from her, and of course, everybody always loves Sleepless, Brony, and, several. Too many to list.
Alright, when you wrote the story called Eggheads, I believe your first story, what were your expectations?
Low. They were really low. I thought I would just be one of those mediocre cloth writers who disappeared into the mist. I really didn't ever think anything would come from it.
And now, it's been about 15 weeks since you first registered on FanFiction. You now have 19 stories, which equals out to over one story per week that you're getting out. How do you find the drive to pump these stories out like that?
Well, I think it's just writer's drive. I mean, like you said, I really just crank them out. I don't think too much about them. I don't stress about them or worry about them. I just write them and I put them up. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay, for the few instances where you moved away from the Klopp genre into something a little bit more widely accepted, tell us about those stories.
Well, I guess Klopp gets a little bit repetitive. There can be an argument made for that. And I wanted to see if outside the realms of, pony porn, there was a little bit something else that I was good at. And they were fun to write, but I went back to Klopp in the end.
So what were the stories that you had that were more shipping rather than Klopp?
Well, you know what? They were fun to write. It was fun to look at the more romantic aspect of it, but I feel like it lacked a little something. Something, like you said, not so socially accepted.
Alright, one of the most remarkable things that I found about your stories that you write is that they almost always hit the featured box. And there are other authors that'll hit the featured box regularly, but it's usually because they'll bring out a new chapter of an already popular fanfic. But in your cases, it's a lot of one-shots that you write, and they always manage to hit the featured box almost every single time. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I don't know, really. I think it's slightly unfair because of a high watcher count and faithful, loyal watchers on top of that. I don't know. I guess I sort of cater to the fans. I kind of write what people want to read.
Now, your second fanfic, having almost twice as many views as any of your others, why don't you tell us a little bit about that one?
My second fanfic, which one was that? The Apple Dash, I do believe. Oh, well, I don't... That one, really, it's under 3,000 words. I hardly put any thought into it. I love Apple Dash, and I wanted to write it. It really was easy and simple to write.
If I'm not mistaken, the second fanfic that you had on your channel was the Truth or Dare story.
Truth or Dare! Truth or Dare. Of course. Sorry. I get my own mixed up. Like you said, I've got too many. But yeah, Truth or Dare. Actually, you know what? That was my sister's idea. She made a joke about a pony centipede, and my mind twisted it. And actually, it turned out to be hugely fun to write.
And, in fact, speaking of that one, you tend to take some of the fics that you write and will make sequels for them later on. Do you set some stories up for that, or does it just happen to work out that way sometimes?
It really just happens to work out that way. I don't plan it, but it's the ones that I duplicate that are the most popular, and also happen to be the most fun to write, so I really have no qualms with making sequels.
It's actually kind of funny because, if I'm not mistaken, the sequel to Truth or Dare was called The Sleepover 2.0, and I think that was the first fanfic that made it onto the featured box.
I think actually Truth or Dare was the first one. Yes. Yeah, okay. Truth or Dare was my first one that made it on.
And then, the sequel was the second one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, since it's relevant, what is your reaction to Howard Stern?
Oh my goodness, don't get me started. I heard him, and everybody says, don't get angry, he's really just a shock jock, but I know everything he said went against everything that I believed in, so it riled me up. I gotta say, it riled me up.
Is there one of your stories that you would say is your favorite?
Oh my goodness, that's almost as bad as asking me what best pony is. I can't decide. I would probably have to say, my recent one, Dream of Me, was so much fun to write because while I was writing it, all I could think of is how can I make these ponies cry? And then before that, it was The Bakery. That was so much fun.
All right. Recently, your sister got into writing fan fictions as well. Maybe a little bit more PG-13, but tell us what you did when she first started.
The entire time I was actually encouraging her. I told her it was great, submit your story in the night, wake up, and you have a million notifications, and it's awesome. But I was encouraging her the whole time, and I was really, really happy when she finally did. I knew it would be good for her, and I knew she was a good writer. She just needed that little extra push,
And you did something a little bit special with her for her first fanfic, didn't you?
Yes. I couldn't encourage her all the way, so I figured it was for the best if I helped her out a little bit. And it actually turned out really well, I thought. But you know what? She's on her own the next time, and she knows.
And how is she doing now, in your opinion?
She really, really wants to write her next one, but I feel like she's got a little bit of lack of inspiration. But you know what? It should be out soon, I think. She's looking at me right now. She's like, oh, it better be. I'm looking at you.
All right, is there anything you can tell us that you may have planned for upcoming fics?
Ooh. Okay. More romance, more tragedy. I know I sound like a sadist, but honestly, it is so much fun to write those really sobby, tear-jerkery fics. But in specific, the next one's an Octoscotch, and then after that we have another Dashfire, because, Dashfire. And then it's kind of blank. Who knows?
And I believe one of your it's been a couple weeks since it came out, but you had a humanized fic, and you're planning to do a sequel for that one as well, right?
Right, yeah. The sequel to Seeing Double, yeah. You know what? I can't believe I didn't mention that. I really like that one. I can't wait to do the sequel for it. It's different for me to include the human into it, but it's worth it. it's the challenge to write. Let's just say that.
Well, I think that is about all that we have to talk about. I was just wondering if you had any other final thoughts or any shout-outs you wanted to make to end off the interview.
Let's think. Shout-outs. Actually, I do have one. I promised her I'll say her name in my interview. So, of course, there's my little sister named Apple Bloopel. You can find her on FanFiction. She is smiling at me so big right now. She's so happy that I did this. And thoughts? Don't let any pony get you down. I mean, if you want to write Klopp, you write Klopp. You write it with a big, dopey smile on your face, because you know what? That's just how it is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that is all that we had for today. Thank you so much for the interview.
Well, thank you. This was awesome. Thanks.
And with that, we'll head into the rest of the podcast. All right. With that interview done, we'll head into the weather report for this week. First thing on the list is a tweet that the Hub brought out, stating that Season 3 is going to be airing soon. There wasn't much more information other than that was given, but it's just telling the viewers that it's coming, it's just not out there yet. So we'll have to wait for more information until we can actually learn the real release date. Information on that is in the show notes.
And next up we have William Anderson and Weird Al actually got together and talked a little bit. Apparently they're friends from way back. And there's some talks about Weird Al actually wanting to be on the show. I think it was expanded at Everfree during one of the EQI interviews, or maybe during one of the panels. But apparently there's some work trying to be done to get Weird Al into the show as probably some sort of cameo, I would assume. You can see the little video and a couple of pictures in the show notes.
Yeah, actually that was they actually had a talk with William Anderson. William Anderson actually used to be a member of Weird Al's band, and so
yeah, that was it. Yeah,
he's actually a really good friend of Weird Al. So that's what's going on there. So next thing on the list is a little article that came out about Twilight Sparkle's abilities as a librarian, and literally they just go through this series. Take a look at some of the things that she does in her library and actually critique her on how well she does as a librarian. They go through several main points of what the good qualities of a librarian are and critique her on that. It's fairly entertaining, and you can check that out. The link for that is in the show notes.
And we have even more news from Canterlot Gardens. About every week we get news from them. As per usual, it's a giant wall of text. Let's see here. They announced Michelle Krieber, Britt and Carly McKillop of the band One More Girl, and Silly Philly Studios, and even more. Britt McKillop is actually the voice of Princess Cadence, so that's going to be something to see. I don't think we've had the voice of Princess Cadence at anything else, actually. Of course, they're going to be available for autographs and all that good stuff. They actually updated their website recently as well. They can actually keep it up to date better now, so it might be worth checking them out every day or every other day or so just to see what they're up to. Silly Philly Studios will actually be on a panel describing the basics of animation and starting a production group. They're actually the ones responsible for the animation Luna's Cutie Mark, as well as a few smaller ones for events and cons. They're going to be there to help answer some questions about what all goes into the productions like that. And they'll also have a Q&A session. It also looks like Meredith Sims was announced for the Fan VA panel. The Fan VA panel is going to have Meredith, Kira Buckland, I don't know how to pronounce, but Kimlin Tran, Jenny Nicholson, and Hannah May. And of course, their auction application is now open, so you can go do that now. And of course, their pre-registration badge prices have now ended. They're actually $20 for a 1-day pass and $40 for a 3-day pass. And that's assuming And they're saying they might sell out at some point too. So if you haven't gotten a ticket and you're going, you might want to get it now. If you can view a lot more information in the show notes.
There's two really, really cool trailers that BronyCon the documentary has put out on their Kickstarter page. The first one is actually a clip of the Bronypalooza segment where Living Tombstone and Eurobeat Brony were doing their live performance of Discord, and John Delancey kind of crept up behind them and ended up surprising them. So that was really cool, and you can check that video out. The other one that they have is just a portion where Tara Strong was signing autographs, and just trolls this one brony that brought up a quantified like foam chainsaw, because she's from Lollipop Chainsaw, so they had a quantified one foam chainsaw, and tried to get her to sign it, and she completely trolled him on it. So that's a pretty fun clip to watch as well. And both of those can be found in the show notes.
And next up, during the charity auction at Everfree Northwest, I actually watched this happen. One of John Joseco's drawings actually hit $2,000. I actually watched this happen. If I recall correctly, it got up to a certain point, and there was just two people who sat there with their hand raised while the number just kept going up and up and up, and finally just two people, and finally the person who didn't win finally put their hand down, and actually the guy who won actually got up and went and shook the guy's hand who was bidding against him. It was actually pretty amazing. You can see more information on that in the show notes.
The next thing on the list is something that I kind of was really surprised to hear about, because you bronies are crazy, because the Interplay trading cards that have come out from MLP are entirely sold out, as in Interplay has no more to ship out to local retailers. Now, some of the retailers will still have them, or might still have them in stock, but no more are going to be printed out and sent out until the end of September. So, if you find any at the stores, go and get them now, because they're about to run out, and there won't be any more for about another month. So, very, very crazy news, but at the same time, it's kind of cool to hear that became as popular as it was. More information on that is in the show notes.
All right, next up we have the Children of the Night animation seeking a voice actor for what they describe as a cheerful yet tired mayor.
I think for that one they actually posted a video of the Neverending Story, and they said that they kind of wanted to be like the child empress from Neverending Story.
Yeah, they actually got quite a bit of information here. If you're interested in that, definitely go check it out. You can see a link to that in the show notes.
So, the biggest piece of news is obviously Everfree Northwest this week. You can check out the panels and the mega post that we have in the show notes, but we're going to go over a little bit about what happened at Everfree Northwest as well. The first day that it opened up, they had the pre-show that came on at 11 o'clock. Well, 11 o'clock here. It was I think 9 o'clock over in 9 o'clock over in Seattle, and they had the pre-show that came on with the Equestrian Inquirer, and they kind of did a little bit of a intro and said, the doors are going to be opening soon. 2 hours later is when the thing actually started. It just, I don't know if they weren't ready or if there was some technical difficulties or whatever, but they just ended up delaying the con for like an hour. I guess things happen, but that's kind of what Everfree Northwest was all about, is just delays. There were a bunch of cancellations. The Devil Rainboom panel didn't show up, and so they had to quickly do a special thing there. That was actually when they did the Whose Line Is It Anyway, which actually turned out to be one of the funniest things that happened at Everfree North.
I've got to go back and watch that. I wasn't able to catch it, but I absolutely loved Whose Line Is It Anyway back in the day.
Because they had Mike the Microphone actually ended up being one of the contestants on that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would be good.
And so, yeah, they had Mike the Microphone up there, along with several other bronies, and then at the very end, the crowd got to vote on, like, who they thought was the best, and the 4 best players went up at the end to do a special scenes from the hat that they did.
Oh, that is excellent. I'm definitely going to watch that as soon as I get home.
That was pretty good. Other panels they had on Friday, let's see here. They had the Friendship is Witchcraft panel, which was really cool. They actually brought out a short. It wasn't a whole episode, but it was a short little thing that they showed that was pretty funny. It was the very beginning of the Owlicious episode. All is Well That Ends Well. And so they did a parody on the beginning of that episode, which was pretty cool. Other panels that they had on Friday were...
Did they ever make a list of, or like a finalized list of what the panels were?
Yeah, that's on the mega post. Hold on, I'm going to go to that right now. Also on Friday they had a special episode of Stay Brony, My Friends, and actually Dusty Cat ended up having a interview with Daniel Ingram and who was the other one?
Stephen Andrews, I believe.
Stephen Andrews, there you go. And I didn't catch that one, but I'm sure that was a really good interview as well. I'll need to check that one out later.
I can't remember what day that was on, the Guys of MLP panel.
That was on Saturday, actually. On Saturday, there was a lot of really good panels. In fact, I spent almost that entire day watching panels because I wanted to keep on seeing what was going on. The morning, they had the main 6 -2 panel because Ashley Ball's still on tour with her band Hey Ocean. Yeah, so on Saturday they had the main 6 -2 panel. They had Tara Strong, and Andrea Lidman, Tabitha St. Germain, Kathy Westluck, and Nicole Oliver all up there on stage. And that one was really kind of funny. That was when the whole "Look, it's Moose" thing started, which was kind of funny, and that sparked a whole new meme for the entire convention. They also had, at that point in time, Nicole Oliver said that she wanted to see a drawing that combined Princess Celestia and Princess Leia from Star Wars, and so that's been drawn as well, and there's plenty of stuff to see on that as well. Also that day they had the My Little Investigations panel, which was that was really cool. They actually at BronyCon, I know they were at BronyCon, but they didn't have a demo to present at BronyCon. And
yeah, I think at BronyCon they released the demo case.
Okay.
Or case 1, or I'm not even sure what they call it anymore.
But at Everfree Northwest, at their panel, they actually had a fully voiced, fully interactive panel, like part of the game to show everyone. They showed the entire beginning scene. They showed how to interact with people and items that were on the ground. They showed how interrogation works, how confrontation works. And it was really, really informative. There were some things that I wasn't sure how they were going to implement it in the game, and just very, very informative and very good information that they showed at their panel. Later on that day is when they did the male voice actors, and they had Lee Tokar, they had Shining Armor's VA, which was Andrew Francis, which was this was his first con, so that was kind of cool to hear from him finally. And then of course they also had Peter New at on the panel as well, sporting his half beard since he got to 3,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, the one thing the one running joke in that panel I liked was at this many Twitter followers, I'll do this. Yeah, they didn't want to answer a question. Or they couldn't answer a question.
Lee Tokar and Peter New are just two of the people that have the most energy I've ever seen. In fact, during the charity auction, which I believe happened later that same day, they started out on the side. I think it was it Final Draft, or was it Chef Sandy who was doing the charity auction?
don't know. I don't think it was Final Draft.
Okay. It could have been Chef Sandy that was doing it. And it started out with them just kind of on the sidelines, and they were handing out the items to the people that bid for them. And then all of a sudden, like, the person that was doing the auctioning was kind of slow, kind of, low energy, and so Lee Tokar and Peter New jumped in, and just things got crazy. There was one point in time where they kind of did an impromptu thing where they're like, all right, next bid is for anyone who wants a hug from me and Lee Tokar. And they started bidding on hugs. And at some point in time, it was up to like $50, and it said, and Michelle Krieber walked in, and he's like, okay, so now we're gonna get hugs from me, Lee Tokar, and Michelle Krieber. And then all of a sudden, like, dozens of hands went up after that. And
oh, no.
Ended up going to like $130 or $120 for a hug from all three of them. And it was really kind of funny. And so there was a lot of that went on at the same time. So that was kind of fun if you want to see that. And of course that was also where the painting sold for, or the drawing sold for $2,000 at the charity auction as well. Lee Tokar actually came to the pony stock later on that night and said that they had earned over $10,000 for the charity that they were doing the auction for. So that was really cool that they were able to raise that much money. Then the only other thing that we really need to talk about that was really worth noting is the pony stock. Pony stock occurred on Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning as well. And pony stock on Friday was really good. They had a whole bunch of artists that showed up and did a set. Microphone had one. They had Silverhound. I think Art Attack was there as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, they had a whole bunch of people that came up and did a set of music, and it was a complete rave party there, which was really kind of cool. Now, the second night was a little bit different. Instead of several artists coming up and having a set, they pretty much had a concert. The Beatles opened it up along with, who were the first people? It was a weird,
was it that one, crap.
Something,
I think they did a collab, Acoustamandrobroni or whatever.
Well, that was after the opening act. That was like the main show, was that Acoustic Brony opened it up with a couple of their songs. Eventually, Amanda Pony came up on the stage and did a couple of songs along with Acoustic Brony. Afterwards, Michelle Krieber came up on stage and did a couple of songs with Amanda Pony, and then did a couple of songs on her own. And that's actually when they also showed the world premiere of the Spies in the Night music video that they had as well, which was really well done. I actually really like that song as well. So, just really, really cool. I watched the entire thing and I was like, this music is awesome. These guys are great.
Yeah, I think during the Dusty Cats show, or the special edition of his show, I think, didn't William Anderson actually give a shout out to I think Silverhound and can't remember who else, but I think if I recall correctly, he actually gave a shout out to two of the participants in the on Saturday's Pony Stock.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was just amazing.
Well, it is really cool when, you have these music directors from the show that listen to the Brony music and actually like it. It's really cool.
It's amazing.
And I'm sure those guys are really excited about the fact that they've been acknowledged by the makers of the music from the show. I think it's really cool that the makers of the show themselves are embracing this fandom as well. Now, on Sunday there was a couple of panels as well. That's when they had the Cutie Mark Crusaders panel, which was actually really funny. You get Claire Corlett and Michelle Krieber in the same place, and they start going at it and having some fun together. And they actually had Maddie Peters sit in the middle of them so that they didn't get too rowdy. But
that panel just kind of, I kind of want to say it deteriorated into awesomeness, if that makes any sense.
It was pretty awesome. It was cool because they ended up talking about their auditions, and it was funny because I don't think any of them thought they were going to get the parts that they ended up getting.
Yeah, I got the same impression. They were all expecting something completely different.
So that was what happened at that panel, and then of course Everfree Northwest came to an end on Sunday as well. Now, so overall the panels were great. There were a lot of really good panels, a lot of fun ones to watch. The only thing that was really bad was the live stream. If you were there at BronyCon, I mean, it was great. Everfree Northwest, it was great. But the live streams really were horrible. Just because, I mean, audio problems were common. And then, of course, you had the delays that happened as well, where panels started like 20 minutes, half hour late. And that was like normal throughout the entire convention. The other thing that went on at Everfree Northwest was the Equestria Inquirer covered the entire thing and did a couple of side interviews as well.
Yeah, in between panels, they kept doing side interviews, like right after they got off their panel.
Yeah, I mean, because...
And almost all of those were absolutely great.
Yeah, they did interviews with Kathy Westlock. They did an interview with Andrew Francis. They had an interview with William Anderson. Just a lot of side information that if they didn't get to this on the panel, then you got the EQI interview to look at and see if there's more information. And I think that's where the whole Weird Al thing came up anyway.
Yeah, I think it was addressed in one of the EQI interviews.
And talk about random, EQI was in the merchandise room, and we're looking at all the different merchandise tables. Ended up coming up to one of them that had a complete family cosplaying as the Apple family. They had a Granny Smith, they had a Big Mac, they had an Applejack. I don't know if they had an Apple Bloom there or not, but ended up hearing about this competition that was coming up, that they were going to have like this sing-off, dance-off against the Flim Flam brothers, who were also cosplaying there as well. And I think it was right before Pony Stock on Saturday night where they ended up actually doing that. And I'm sure that video is up on Everfree Radio's YouTube channel now, so you can check that out as well. Just kind of something random that happened that wasn't really planned, but I mean, EQI was there and they found it and recorded the entire thing, so that was pretty funny. So other than that, I mean, that was pretty much what happened at Everfree Northwest. So I think with that, we'll head into the next part of the podcast, which is our PMTV segment, starting with the video. There were some really good ones that came up this week, some of them that really were surprising. There was a PMV that showed up today called Smile Like You Mean It, and this is actually a song done by The Killers, and really, really good what they did with the animation. I really enjoyed watching it, mostly centered around Pinky, obviously, but there were all the ponies were in there. I really liked the song mixed with the animation. It was just really well done. That's done by PSP Chief. The next thing that came out is the Equestria Daily, the Game 2. And if you remember, I think it was earlier this year when they brought out Equestria Daily, the Game, which is just a first-person shooter where you're shooting emails. And this is a sequel to that game that Nano Camaro came out with, and that video is up on YouTube now as well. The next one that we have on the list is a new Epic Pony rap battle of history. Now, there are two of these. This one that did it is not the same one that did the Twilight Sparkle and Trixie rap battle, and they also did the Prince Blue Blood and Big Mac one. That's done by Mike the Microphone. This one is completely different. It's a completely different person that did it. And this one is Queen Chrysalis versus Discord. I don't know the name of the guy that did the Discord impression, but it is absolutely amazing. Most people that watch this video say that he sounds almost exactly like John Delancey. And the Queen Chrysalis voice actor is just as good as well. It's a really good really good rap battle, and most people are saying that it's a pretty close one as well. So if you want to go and watch that, you can check that link out on YouTube as well. Next thing on the list is a new movie, or this one happens to be a TV show reenacted by ponies. This time they ended up modifying Yu-Gi-Oh! And obviously that's done by JJK Movies, and this one's pretty funny. I mean, they take, I think it's the first episode of the show, or the end of the first episode of the show, and they completely ponify it. That one's pretty well done. It's pretty funny at some points as well. So you can check that out. The last one I have on the list is actually a comic that I saw quite a long time ago. I think, and correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I think it was Veggie 55 that was bringing out the comics almost every week that had Spitfire and Soren, and just different interactions between those two characters.
Yeah, that was Veggie 55, I believe. Yeah, it was.
Animated one. And this one's the Betrayal of Trust one. I absolutely love that one, because that's where Soren comes up to Spitfire and said, yeah, I saw you flying with Rainbow Dash just the other day, and Spitfire was like, yeah, sorry about that. I was thinking about you when I was doing it.
That one was pretty good.
So that one was pretty funny. And that's completely voiced, completely animated and stuff like that, so you can check that out. The link for all of these videos are in the show notes.
I just have to say, some of the animations people are doing now, they just keep getting better and better.
This fandom is insanely talented, and I can't wait to see, especially Double Rainbow, which is going to be the first fan-made episode ever, because I feel there are going to be several more to come after that.
We know one thing for sure, if they're not talented now, they will be soon.
Yeah.
Alright, that brings us to our music section, speaking of talent. First off, we have a song by M. Palante called Sparkle, Hard Times. It is, in fact, a rock track, and it is pretty good. I can't quite, I haven't quite been able to decipher the lyrics myself yet, but it is definitely a good song, and you should definitely check that one out. Next up, we have Perfect Match, Laughter by Scarlet Peace. This one is actually a Pinkie Pie song. I believe it is sung in kind of like in first person, looking at Pinkie Pie being, I guess, the perfect happy-go-lucky pony, if you would. And of course, I believe she actually has a bunch of music, so if you haven't heard her before, definitely go check her out. And next up, we actually have an original song by someone's calling himself One Trick Pony, with 0 and 1s instead of O's and I's. It is actually his first one, and it is definitely good. And lastly, we have I forgot to say the title of that last one. Let's try that again. Next up, we have a first from a newcomer calling himself One Trick Pony. It is actually definitely a good song. It's called Royal Canterlot Voice. And more or less, I believe it's talking about how she doesn't recognize, Equestria after having been gone so long. Definitely a good piece of music, and a little bit deep as well. And lastly, we actually have a parody of Coldplay that combines Discord. It is called Viva la Disharmonia. Viva la Disharmonia. It is a very good song. I believe Coldplay's song Viva la Vida, I believe it was. And it's a very good song, and it's done very well. Now the singer, Ponky Piano, doesn't sound like Discord. He just sang it in his normal voice. I want to point out real quick that as a video response, Volpicide Films actually did a cover of it as well, which is also just as good. And that brings us to our casting call. This time out, we actually have Season 2 auditions for the vinyl scratch tapes. Auditions close the 31st, and they may or may not have callbacks, depending on the number of auditions. They are currently looking to fill 2 male roles, I believe they're just short roles, so nothing long-standing or anything like that. But you've got a Harpo, which is a quiet but confident one, and a Gruff Pony, who is gruff. They're also looking for females. Trixie will appear in 5 episodes. Princess Luna would be in 2 episodes. Derby Who's comes up in 2 episodes. And Berry Punch comes up in 1 episode. So if you're interested, definitely check that out in the show notes. All the information's there for how to audition, all that good stuff.
And just as a side note, for those of you that are wondering, Vinyl Scratch Tapes, for the female roles especially, Trixie is a lead role with a lot of lines. Luna is actually one of their interviews. So one episode will have a whole bunch of views, and she actually comes back in a later episode with fewer lines, but still a fairly big role. And the other 2 are just one episode short roles. But yeah, Trixie and Luna are both going to be pretty big parts in that. So just make sure that you're very motivated if you want to go for those parts. So going on into the fanfic for the week, during the Brony show this week, they had a pre-show where for the first hour they'd read short little fanfics. This one popped up during that, and I just had to feature it. This one is called Scootaloo is Slightly Flame Retardant, but I Don't Want to Know, and it's really, really funny. Because
I think the title says it all.
Yeah, pretty much. Scootaloo ends up getting her cutie mark, which is a flame with an X on it, and they're not quite sure what it means, so they end up going to Twilight to talk about it, and I won't spoil anything for you, but it's just pretty funny what happens. So you can definitely check that out. The link for that is in the show notes as well. And with that, that'll end our podcast for this week. Make sure you tune in next week. We have our interview with the members of the Equestria Inquirer, and we'll see you then. I'm Lightning.
I'm Rashi.
And we'll see you next time.
This is a sneak preview of Michelle Krieber's debut album. Is a sneak preview of Michelle Krieber's debut album.